Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ryan Pennant from Keyware, and I'll be presenting 10 tips you can use to improve data quality in your CRM system. Now, if during the presentation you guys have any questions, just feel free to use the questions area here and go to webinar, and I'll set aside some time at the end to answer those. And the presentation will be under 30 minutes, so we'll get you back to your day here pretty quickly. Also, there's going to be a recording of the webinar that's made available for your convenience. Sound good? All right, let's get started. So before we dive in, just allow me to give you a little bit of background on Qware. So we've got over 25 years of experience as a CRM partner, both implementing and supporting different CRM platforms, including Microsoft Dynamics 365, Infor CRM, and Sage CRM. And today we are an ISV for both Microsoft and Infor CRM. And we are also the creators of Paribus 365. So Paribus 365 is a data quality management solution. It includes things like enhanced fuzzy searching, duplicate detection and prevention, and also duplicate data cleansing in bulk, as well as even at the user side. All right. So enough about us. Let's go ahead and discuss the 10 tips that we can help you improve your data quality. Tip number one. Determine the key data that is most important to your organization. So you really want to talk to your department heads, your users, data analysts, your C-level people, and anyone else who in your organization that uses data, and really define how they currently use the data, as well as, of course, how they may need to use it in the future. So, for example, you may not be collecting the correct data for your needs. We recently had a customer that could not produce the reports that they needed because it just simply wasn't being collected in the CRM system at the user level as part of their day-to-day processes. And then you want to really focus and require what the minimum data is to be collected from customers, suppliers, or anybody else, right? And this includes both internal and external use data. So remember, your IT department also needs data to maintain your internal systems as well. And then ultimately reduce irrelevant data. So examples, if you don't use like a certain type of record type, customer type, or status, or other data that does not matter to the health of your system, just simply don't collect it. You may have used something in the past, but you may not use it today, right? And then, of course, schedule regular reviews in case things change, right? So always understand what the key data is that you run, that you will use to run every aspect of your business, right? So that's our tip number one. Tip number two, what's the current state of your data quality? Now, we recommend carrying out periodic reviews of your data quality and performing what you might call a health check. So a data health check really is a way to identify and address problems with your data. So it can help you identify areas for improvement, gain executive buy-in, which is super important, or find problems like missing data, improper backups, or of course, security vulnerabilities, which are definitely important, right? And then you want to review your data quality guidelines and rules for the users and just really be sure that they're current with your internal needs, as well as, of course, any government regulations or guidelines out there. And then really understand the cost of poor data quality, right? On average, it costs companies $12.1 million annually, according to Gartner. And IBM recently did a study found that in the US, there's $3.1 trillion costing companies, all right? That's just staggering. And of course, probably more important at home, determine your data costs, right? What's your cost for emailing or mailing and shipping? User efficiency. How often do users have to correct or update data or addresses? And of course, are they swimming through tons of duplicates to find the information they need on a customer? So really get a clear picture on what poor data quality is costing your organization. All right, that's tip two. On to three. Data entry standards. So really establish data entry guidelines, okay? Typically, we're obviously talking about within your UI and your CRM, ERP system, what have you. So, we're talking about the fields on the form in CRM, right? Example, required fields. Users that might be required of the users when adding a new customer or adding a new order. Are these really the proper fields that you need? And of course, obviously, it's going to differ from business to business, right? So just understand your needs. Think back to tip 1. And good form layout cannot be understated, right? You want to have less scrolling. Do the forms have kind of follow a logical process, right? So users will really appreciate if you're giving them a better experience as part of this process, all right? And of course, be consistent across the system, all right? Whether that be adding contacts, adding tickets, or those types of things in the system, whether you're on the support, sales side, what have you, just make sure it's the same wherever they are. Tip number 4, integration tools. So you want to really deploy integration tools between your systems, your CRM, ERP, accounting, that type of stuff, right? Example, so obviously, well, first, this is going to help avoid inconsistent silos between systems, right? Example would be things like sales numbers differing across your systems. Think sales and marketing. What you define as a customer versus a prospect between the systems can impact sales projections, for example, especially if they're not the same, right? You want to standardize those things. Also, good integration tools can auto-create records in both systems or across multiple systems, right? Keeping things consistent. And of course, integration tools can also prevent duplicates from between the systems. So we'll talk more about the importance of managing duplicates later, of course. And then obviously, really integration tools will promote consistency, right? And also trust in the system. So users can trust data, and therefore it's going to really increase their confidence in the system, and it's going to become important for them as well. Tip number 5, option sets. Also in some systems, they might be called pick lists, okay? So basically, use option sets or pick lists really whenever possible, right? So the less free form entry by users, the better. Think of something like countries, right? Are you typing in US, USA, or United States, right? Option sets will really help avoid misspellings for the important data that you use. So you don't want it to be the Wild West when it comes to your data, right? So think about spelling of data fields like customer types or categories and status types, right? So make option sets required when necessary and not when the data is not really that important. And of course, this is obviously going to promote consistency and adhere to your organization's established nomenclature, right? And then of course, really important for reporting and BI, right? So these will be much more accurate, requiring less filtering or tinkering with the data that you need when you're trying to get that information out of the system, right? And then obviously, keep the values up to date and relevant, right? So review these things periodically to keep everything, accurate. Tip number 6, address management tools. And what we really mean here is third-party address management tools. So these are tools that autofill address fields, for example. So a user might type the first few characters in address line 1, and everything just does the rest. All the information's filled out in address line 1, 2, city, state, zip, country, and all that. And of course, obviously, this is going to save tons of time from a user perspective. They're not going to have to manually enter all of this data, right? And obviously, you're going to have accurate data that's up to date because the third-party vendors ensure it is, in fact, being updated constantly, right? So you don't have to even worry about those types of things. And of course, it's going to ensure consistent formatting, right? You're not going to have the city in address line 1 or the postal code where the city goes. Trust me, we've seen all kinds of weird stuff. People are putting notes in address line 1, 2, and 3. It just becomes a nightmare. So these types of tools will help prevent all of that, right? Now, some examples of some vendors that you might see out there. Now, this is not an endorsement of any particular vendor, Just some of the top ones that we've seen, right? So you've got Smarty and SumSub and Informatica and so forth. But just go off and do some research on your own. You'll find some pretty good ones across the board. Tip number 7, duplicate detection and cleansing. Now, we're going to spend just some extra time really here on this particular tip, as well as some extra slides, because it really is a complex and multifaceted subject. Now, duplicate records are a massive issue for maintaining data quality, and they make up really a large portion of data quality issues. Now, there's many sources of duplicates. Obviously, users, it's been determined through Gartner experience, so forth, over 50% of duplicates are being entered by users, okay? Also, data imports. Obviously, we're bringing in a lot of data into our systems, Excel spreadsheets, what have you. People are purchasing stuff these days. As we know, data is the lifeblood of your system. So a lot of imports are also bringing in duplicates. And of course, web portals and marketing links, right? We're collecting all this stuff off the web, right? And of course, some of these marketing tools may have some rudimentary email dupe detection, but it really doesn't help you if people are entering stuff on your forms, like their email address. That's both their their home, their work, and their school, right? So you're going to have a whole bunch of different John Smiths, even if the name is the same. So it's really important to frequently scan for duplicates constantly, keeping things, understanding just how bad maybe your issue is. And also scheduling regular bulk cleansing of duplicates to keep things clean for the users, right? Now, the cost of duplicates can't really be underestimated. Now, I want to take a deeper dive into this subject to really understand their impact and why it is so important to keep your system free of duplicates. So, for example, duplicate marketing material. Now, CRM systems can have thousands or even tens of thousands of duplicate records. Now, we've seen it all, right? Imagine the additional costs that you could incur sending emails or printing or sending postcards, flyers, catalogs, and then you multiply that times the number of marketing campaigns that you're running per year. And of course, there's the lack of the single customer view, which has many consequences to both the user and the customer. Now imagine a customer, let's say Bob Smith, calls me and he wants to confirm his order information, right? So I do a quick search in CRM and I'm presented with the following. How do I effectively help him without going through each of these to review his history, right? It's really frustrating for me, as well as, of course, Mr. Smith, and it's really inefficient, right? And of course, another issue is regulations like Europe's GDPR or some of the other data laws that have come across the US and other parts of the world recently, right? They all have something that's called the right to be forgotten requirement, right? It's really tough to do that when maybe I delete some of these, but not the Robert J. Smith or some of the other variations of spellings that I didn't catch, right? And of course, all of this has a negative impact on brand reputation, right? So sending out duplicate emails equates to basically spamming your customers and prospects, and they're not going to be very happy with you, right? And of course, consider the inefficiency and lack of productivity associated with duplicates. Needlessly searching through duplicates is just a huge time waster, and it lowers the user's confidence in your system. And of course, this is all going to lead to inaccurate reporting, right? With data being the lifeblood of your system and data spread across multiple duplicate records, right? And obviously, you, of course, are also making decisions basically on this faulty data, which can obviously negatively impact the bottom line. All right, so just there's a huge cost when it comes to duplicates, as we know. Now let's stay on tip 7 here and focus on the detection of duplicates. And what we really mean here is detection in bulk. So the tools available to you will differ depending on whatever CRM system you're using. In Microsoft Dynamics 365, there's 2 options that are available to you. There's the Check for Duplicates wizard, which allows you to run bulk duplicate detection jobs. Then there's also the XRM Toolkits deduplicator. Now, if you're using Infor CRM, there is the duplicate wizard or the merge wizard that they have available. And if you're using Salesforce, you can run what they call duplicate detect jobs. So those are some of the bulk detection tools that are included in some of the more popular CRM systems. Now, they're obviously not perfect. In fact, they do definitely have some limitations, which we'll discuss here shortly. Now, let's discuss the cleansing portion of tip number 7. As mentioned, many organizations have hundreds or even thousands of duplicates. So you want to have a tool that will obviously clean in bulk. Now, in addition to bulk cleaning, if permitted by your security policies, users can play an important part by merging when they encounter dupes as part of their day-to-day processes, right? They know the data best, right? And they obviously can make a decision whether records are truly duplicates or not. And this really helps, from the IT department, taking some of the load off them, and they ultimately don't, of course, want to be responsible. Now, let's talk about limitations, right? Be aware there's definitely limitations to any of the out-of-the-box tools, which can really vary across CRM systems. Now, all of them will allow you to merge in bulk to some degree, but the fuzzy matching capabilities are limited and typically non-existent, right? And since they're not dedicated duplicate cleansing solutions, they're not very user-friendly and are missing advanced features like easy reviewing of duplicate results. Also, there's no fuzzy matching on additional fields, nor automated selection of surviving records and other common features that you would find in third-party data cleansing solutions. And speaking of third-party solutions, if you are considering this route, look for a solution that does offer fuzzy match on multiple fields with no record limits, something that's really highly configurable and does not charge by the number of matches or merges, right? It should be unlimited merge and will consolidate duplicates to restore that single customer view, right? So if you're using Dynamics or Infor, please go ahead and consider Paribus 365, which does offer those aforementioned features and a lot more. Tip number 8, duplicate prevention, or what we would like to say, put up a data quality firewall, right? So you're going to want tools that offer prevention when adding new records, ideally detecting a possible match before the user even enters much data, as well as, of course, on an existing record, something that's going to alert you if there's a possible duplicate on an existing record to be sure you're engaged with the correct contact, right? Think of all those Bob Smith examples from earlier. And of course, any preventative detection should be fuzzy to find all the different variations of the person or account, not just exact matches. And if available, enable your CRM system's built-in duplicate detection. Most CRMs have this built in and will alert you when adding a potential duplicate. It's not typically fuzzy and nor typically on existing records, but certainly will help a little bit. And of course, the other thing, be sure users are actually paying attention if you do have duplicate detection turned on. We often see it becomes white noise and they just simply override it, right? And when users just make sure that also when they're looking up a record that they do in fact search first before they're adding records, right? Look before they leap, and that they of course are adhering to your data governance policies. And then of course, again, consider third-party options. Be sure any solution you choose has fuzzy detection when adding records, as well as when you're on a record. And also be sure you're it really helps them ensure that they're on with the correct Bob Smith, for example, right? And be sure it also includes fuzzy lookups for linking related records like opportunities to existing contacts and accounts. And again, consider looking at Paribus 365, especially if you're using Microsoft Dynamics 365. All right, tip number 9, training your users. Now, this seems obvious, but it's really important to remember they are your best defense, okay? So create data entry and data governance policies. Some of the things we talked about, obviously, back in tip 2 and 3. Train your current and your new users and have periodic refreshers. And gather feedback from the users to really improve the policies you have in place and to better understand any issues that they may be having in their day-to-day usage of the system, okay? And it just becomes cyclical, right? They're going to give you feedback and you're going to constantly improve things. And then, of course, ensure users understand the importance of data quality, right? Make it everyone's mission, right? They should understand the costs that are associated with it, both in general, and of course to your day-to-day business. And of course, ultimately, why is this important to the company? If they understand that, why they're being told to do stuff, they'll get on board, all right, and they'll become part of the solution, all right. And then of course, track compliance to ensure users are following your guidelines, right? Audit your system to see who may be entering duplicates, and retrain them if necessary. All right, tip number 10. We're already at the end here. Appoint a data steward, right? So important. Data steward's role include things like being the day-to-day caretaker of your data, right? It's really their job to oversee all things data. And the data steward decides how access is granted to the data, whether it be new users or across departments or to certain systems, right? They decide that. They also will define metrics to measure efficiency or force changes, right? They're often also the bearer of bad news, and they enforce changes across all departments. And then data stewards can be part of a larger data governance program, but really everyone should have at least one, and if you're a bigger company, you might have multiple, okay? So that wraps up the 10 tips for better data quality. Hope you guys learned something valuable today, got something out of this. I know we covered a lot of stuff in a little bit of time, but hey, you probably are watching the recording now, so that will help you. Now, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them now in the questions pane. I'll do my best to answer them now, but if you have something maybe that's more involved, just reach out to me at the information provided below, and we'll get you guys squared away. And for more information on Paribus 365 or to request a free trial, search Paribus 365 on the web, or feel free to reach out to me direct. So really want to thank you guys for your time today. Hope you have a great rest of your day and week. So let's see if we have any questions. And I'll hang on here for just a little bit, but otherwise you got my details. Well, looks like nothing coming in yet. I'll give it a sec here. Well, like I said, if anybody's hanging on still, you've got my details. Feel free to reach out to me. Be glad to give you a demo of Paribus, and if you like what you see, we can set you up with a free trial as well. All right, everyone. Have a awesome rest of your day and week. Bye now.